Hmm.
You know, Patrice Motsepe is the head of CAF.
That's
Anyway, many people want him to be president of the ANC after Ramaphosa, and he keeps going around saying, I'm not interested, I'm not interested. So at the weekend, one of the titles here, the Sunday World, showed that people are beginning to print t shirts. PM 2027 for the ANC. Patrice, in Ipsos polling at the end of 2025, came up as the most popular possible leader of the ANC. You know, he's Cyril Ramaphosa's brother in law. He's been carefully cultivating his political persona using sport as the vehicle to do that. So just watch the space. That's my parting shot. Over to Bob.
and actually for me, CAF is a vindication, and the Morocco AFCON is a vindication of Patrice Motsepe's leadership and abilities. That is single-handedly taken the tournament to where it is today and taken it out of those francophone mafia who were just trading players and match fixing and just not serious at all. Hired to survive the arrest, actually. He was going to be arrested. The guy whom so and I think what Patrice Motsepe has done is he's vindicated Anglophone Africa in quotes by delivering a much better performance. But I wanted to say that for me, all of you enjoyed CAF. My man of the year from AFCON is Pape Thiaw, the manager of Senegal. That guy is my man. I have always wanted a manager to order his players to walk off the field in the face of refereeing injustice. I was really, really happy. Now everybody is praising Sadio Mane and saying Sadio Mane. No, Sadio Mane was
Yeah, Sadio Mane is my man of the
no,
tournament.
Sadio Mane was just tactical. This guy rattled the Moroccans by taking. They didn't expect the team to walk off. So by the time they come back to take the penalty, the team is already shaking. That was psychological warfare at its best.
Ade,
Gosh, I really want to keep my parting shot light, but I can't. I will hit you with a light one. I'll hit you with the heavy. Then I'll give you a little bit of my I have a personal life update at the end.
Eh?
But the thing is, I saw Algerians celebrating with Nigeria, supporting Nigeria against Morocco because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And it was a very nice African moment that I think Africa made me happy. But my parting shot is about something that I think we're not paying attention to with everything that's going on in the world, and we must. I have now seen two videos. One is of a young Nigerian man recruited, told he was going to Russia for a training program, and now being forced to fight on the front lines, calling out for help. Now African leaders have crossed their eyes to the other side, and I know it's a bit of this is also going on in South Africa, with
yes.
young South African men being recruited to fight on the front lines in Russia-Ukraine fight for Russia. But I've also seen a video of a man, an African man, I've not been able to confirm where he's from, being strapped with an explosive device, being used as a some sort of like he should go and blow up,
Good morning for 2026. It is wonderful to have you back with us in our inaugural episode, the first long one for 2026. I know there have been Express Bad Natives done, and what a moment we meet in. I'm Ferrell Haffiji in Johannesburg.
I'm Adeswagiwa Osage here in Abuja, Federal Capital Territory of Nigeria, and happy 2026.
And this is the bad native from Kampala, Uganda. We opened the year with elections. So we, as usual, we lead. And before we go very far, Charles, I want to tell Adesua that there is an interesting argument going on X between Uganda and Nigeria. Have you seen it, Adesua?
I have not. I have not.
So one guy posted and said, Uganda is a country of fools. Then the Nigerians replied, said, no, 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 no. Us guys are the real country of fools. So another Ugandan replied and said, yes, you may beat us on numbers, but we beat you on quality.
And I am Charles Onyango Obo in Nairobi.
I had to start with that. It was just hilarious.
Happy 2026. I was supposed to start my year with you, Bob, in Uganda,
Yeah.
and I sent my office the request letter, and I sent a response saying, Museveni is going to win. They're going to arrest some people, and Bobi Wine will run away again. Please, we already know the story. Sit down at home.
That is so sad. that the narrative was so predictable. Indeed, we live in a time of fools and other stories. So last week we were supposed to record, and because our excellent production team is in Uganda, we couldn't because the internet was shut off. And I don't understand that thing. I don't know how the mobile companies do that. I don't know what happens when you have a net block. Bob, over to you. What was it like?
Well, the regulator simply issued an instruction to all licensed internet operators and instructed them to switch off at 6 p.m. the Tuesday before the election. Now, we've discussed a lot of the implications of that have been talked about, but there was one of the most telling situations that then happened as a result of that. Furio and Adesua, I kid you not, all the flights on Wednesday from Uganda to Nairobi were fully booked and packed. You couldn't get a seat. Why? Because all the people who live in Uganda and whose jobs are dependent on the internet could not afford to disappoint their clients for an extended period. So once the announcement was made, everybody quickly jumped online, booked a ticket, booked Airbnb accommodation in Nairobi, and they decamped for the next 7 days so they can be able to work. That, for me, is the biggest illustration of how backward and completely unimaginative that decision was. That you don't see the much bigger effect you're having, but you have, and there was no real worry about this internet shutdown. I think what eventually turned out to be is that there were concerns about people sharing videos of violence and real time. Of course, the reason was that they don't want people to announce results. But now everybody's conclusion, the conventional wisdom is that they just didn't want people to show videos of ballot stuffing, ballot ticking that was completely illegal, and all of the electoral malpractices that were taking place. So that was really what now everybody feels was being hidden by shutting down the internet.
And Bob, was there ballot stuffing? Was there election rigging, in your opinion? And obviously, I've read, was there a lot of violent repression during on the voting day and also on the day before?
Okay, so I'm going to base on the things that I've seen, the evidence. Actually, and I would like to hear what Charles's take is on this. I think on a weighing scale, this time the ballot stuffing and ballot ticking outweighed the violence as a means of achieving the election outcome. Charles, over to you.
Yes, actually there is a newspaper in Uganda called the Observer.
Yeah.
They did an analysis, in a deep dive, and I'm sure some of this is going to come. And they found that there are 348 polling stations which voted overwhelmingly for Museveni, and they all reported 100% turnout, meaning.
But do you know why
Meaning
that's
that
laughable? Do you know why that's laughable? Because then the president at his first address complains that 10 million people did not vote, and all of them were NRM supporters. So he could have gotten more. So who are these 100%?
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, so basically, we are supposed to believe that at those 348 stations for nearly 1.5 years, no one died, no one migrated, and on voting day, they all turned out. I think the life expectancy in those polling station areas must be 110 years. So I mean, it is utterly ridiculous. So yes, I think that in your case, when you talk of kind of what is the evidence, so you begin actually to see data, like that coming up. But one of the things, I mean, apart from their concerns about photos showing ballot stuffing, and in the end, some of the things seem to have been circulated by election officials themselves. They were delightfully ticking off the thing.
Because they have to
Is that
account.
yeah, because of apathy, there was a sense, and and this was canvassed in one of the Bad Natives Express, that turnout was going to fall significantly below 50%. It would be around between 42 and 45. So they needed to staff and bring it above 51%, which they did, but really it didn't help, because ultimately President Museveni ended up being re-elected by 36% of the registered electorate and less than about 29% of eligible voters. So it really didn't help, resolve the issue that he was trying to, to achieve, or him or his people.
And Adesua, you were going to head off to Uganda. Your office says to you, we know what's going to happen here. Tell us that story.
Yes, this is his seventh re-election. I believe Museveni's seventh re-election. Museveni has been president of Uganda longer than most Ugandans have been alive, because most of the population is under the age of 21. So the only president they've known is Museveni. Museveni is one of our gerontocrats in Africa, along with Biya in Cameroon, in Guema in Equatorial Guinea. It's one of these stories that we already know the script and we know the playbook, because it has been playing across the continent over and over again. And so my office is like, I don't know if it's really news. I don't know if it's really going to be exciting. I don't think anything different is going to happen. I remember I was doing a video on Museveni and Explainer, and someone saw Bobi Wine, and he said, "Oh, is that their Showore?" Because we have Omoyele Showore here in Nigeria, who runs for president all the time. And he said, "Oh, every country has their Showore," and I was like, "That is such a fascinating way."
That's
So,
really interesting.
but it's just that this script is familiar, and it's not just familiar to Ugandans or us across the continent that are watching this Ugandan story. It's also that this script has replicated itself in different African countries in different ways. And so that's what the pushback was. It's a tale as old as time, and we're seeing this autocratic entrenchment of individuals happening also across the continent. Charles talks about it a lot as well, with the amount of leaders in Africa that have extended their stay, using even democratic means, so abolishing presidential term limits, changing the constitution, changing what the roles are, and so we're seeing different younger Musevenis, in the making across the continent. So my office was like, "Yeah, I don't know why this one is particularly exciting for you," because it's not a new story.
So, I try very hard, colleagues, not to be a South African exceptionist, because I don't think we're exceptional in any ways. But I have to say that I did wonder, like, how do you steal elections so easily? Because over here you would have the churches speaking out, Bob. You would have business speaking out. And you would have people on the streets like anything. I mean, we've had 6 presidents in 30 years, and they've all come from the same party, but there's quite a regular turnover of leadership. And I mean, even though President Thabo Mbeki tried to extend his ANC term, there's nobody who's extended their 2-term limits here, although we've spoken extensively about whether that's a Western imposition on our countries. Bob, your thoughts?
I think we have to look deeper at how broken our political system has become and culture. And it all comes from all the numerous constitutional amendments that took place. And somehow everyone has accepted that we are going to be, this is the way we do politics, that they'll fix it in advance, and they will do. Now, I've also been arguing elsewhere that there's a lot of people who are invested in the outcome, and they're very unscrupulous fellows. So they're willing to do anything and everything to deliver that outcome, because the politics has also become transactional. They expect a return. So that's really why, in all of these thieves, violent guys, glib talkers like me, we will all enter the thing as long as there is a payoff at the end. So that's what is happening with our political culture, which is slightly different from, let's say, South Africa. South Africa's political tradition comes from a real tradition of resistance. And that's why you guys fought Zuma and his big man tendencies so much. Here we sort of accepted that there's only one guy, and so everything will be done to make sure that he comes through. So what Charles was talking about is, in a sense, an example of accountability. That there will be people ticking and will not fear or feel embarrassed to let themselves be caught on video, because there is a bigger obligation to account to the person they had promised to do that. If that guy doesn't know that you delivered on the ticking, you can't keep your job. So you must do that. That's the only way you keep the job.
And for either of you, Adesiwa or Charles, this is the second major East African election in very few months, Tanzania just before, which to my outside eyes looking in appears to have been stolen. Is that too naive a view? Ade, you want to have a go?
And that's why your
You
mic is
on mute?
off.
Oopsies. So I was just going to say, speaking of the transactional nature of politics that Bob described, because we do have that in Nigeria, where you have politics becoming transactional and re-election not being based on governance, right? You don't need to govern well to be re-elected. And I was reading a piece, and I've been, I've been thinking about writing about this because I was reading about Venezuela, but it also happens in Nigeria, where a lot of money from government and from governance came from oil, did not come from actual governing of the people. And so the feedback mechanism does not actually have to do with governing the people or improving their lives. And all the way, because we had Obasanjo, who he says now that he never wanted a third term, but we all know what happened to our
He
life.
said it.
you know, but Obasanjo tried it, it didn't work, and Nigerians have always maintained that bad as a bad, we know that it can only last 8 years. Now people are looking at Tinubu and thinking, is he going to try and change this history that we have maintained? Because even though we have transactional politics and we have the commodification of political support, where people's bases become things they're trading amongst the political class, trade their bases for money, for appointments. It's not about the base. It's not about the supporters. It's the fact that the supporters exist as a voting bloc, and that becomes a commodity in itself, right? So our politics is a very transactional thing. But I think one thing that we had in Obasanjo's era that we don't have now in Tinubu era is that all along the way we have been weakening institutions. And you have weak institutions and you have strong men. And that we might have reached a balance where the strong men are now stronger than the institutions. Institutions cannot withstand the men who are currently in those positions, whether it be the Senate president, who is a joke, or or we are talking about the presidency. And so I think what South Africa has is strong institutions. So not just we see sometimes the weakening of some of those institutions or corruption and things filtering in, but your institutions are currently stronger than your big men. And where problems come is when those men become stronger than the institutions, and that's what America is facing now. Is they've relied so much on their institutions for so long, and they now have a strong man, a crazy man in Trump, and he's testing the strength of those institutions.
And the institutions are falling like skittles. Charles, you want to come in? You know how nations fail. The great book does show that strong institutions protect democracy, or democratic praxis rather.
There is a way in which all these things tie together. And to go to your question of Tanzania, Uganda, what are we seeing? And in fact, it links to South Africa, because one of the advantages that, for example, South Africa has, and Kenya, which I think does slightly better in the region, is part of a historical tragedy, because apartheid dislocated people. And Kenya, you had the same dislocation during in the colonial period. So people were taken away from their roots. So people were kind of unmoored. And then secondly, South Africa has a large working class. And so they urbanized faster. They have a larger working class. So what does that mean? Because this thing they call tribalism, it is, I think, more than anything else, it explains this, because we, particularly after the 1990s, when we had the second wave of democracy allowed political actors to mobilize on a very, very sectarian basis. So in fact, part of the problem we are seeing is probably a structural problem with the way democracy played out. So you have very large constituencies, and which do actually support these authoritarian. They support the vote stealing. They support the violence. And in the US you see the same tribalism. People kill mothers and all of these, and half of the bloggers, the podcasters in the US and politicians defend it. So that is how that tribalism manifests itself. So when you have these sectarian constituencies, they tend to rally around their the person who most represents it. So in many ways, all of these autocrats and strongmen, they actually have the kind of legitimacy that Adolf Hitler had. So it's it's not that they operate in a vacuum. So they have social base for their support. And in Tanzania's case, this the support for CCM had grown into a fairly sectarian tendency. And in many ways, what happened in October was that it blew up. The end of it came. You had a new tribe of young people who felt excluded, and then you had the old CCM tribe who were willing to do anything to keep their own thing. So I think those structural things. So countries which didn't benefit from certainly pernicious form of colonialism are now paying the price. Not that colonialism was good, but those are some of the accidental, the accidental,
unintended consequences.
Yes, unintended consequences.
But so Bob, Samora Machel, later Gracia Machel, says for democracy to thrive in its expansive vision, the tribe must die. Is that something that you can apply to Uganda? And also just share with us, how are things going to play out now? Is the world just going to say, okay, that's how it works, and Uganda moves on.
I disagree now with Samora Machel. I think for democracy to thrive,
But there was a time you agreed with him. I just want to
I want to
get that.
I want to modify. I think
Sure.
the middle class must die. It has to be exterminated because they you see
Wow.
you see the
Okay.
tribes.
Bob, I really have missed you. No one else can hear me.
Nobody that
The middle class must be
must
exterminated.
die.
Like what?
because the tribe in and of itself is neither here nor there. It's just a belonging. What has happened is you have these unscrupulous, opportunistic, urbanized people who are stealing money from the government and are using their constituencies, their home areas as tradable commodities, the way Desua has described it. The tribe in and of itself doesn't come and sit in a tribal council and say, we as, Charles comes from the Charles's tribe, they are called Japs, nicely called Japs. The Japs have never met to say we support X. So we need to revisit that position and say we have to deal with the middle class that is engaging in suicidal politics because what they are doing is going to destroy these countries.
I
And
have a
for
That's true.
counterpoint for you,
That's
Bob.
yes. Please go, Ade, because sociology suggests that the middle class bolsters democratic practice because it's
100%.
independent of the state.
Yeah, so basically, Nigeria has undergone the eradication of the middle class in the last 12 to 15 years. Shout out to Buhari. He decimated, exterminated Nigeria's middle class. And but what we have fallen on is we have tribal politics here, right? Tinubu came on and his rallying cry was Emi Lokon. That became his and Emi Lokon means it is my turn. Like it's me that's left. It's my turn. It's time for it to go to the south. It's time for it to go to the Yorubas, right? It is very tribal. The reason why people believe that extension of terms cannot happen in Nigeria is not about Tinubu's consolidation of power, which he has now done. I believe 31 governors are now APC governors. The APC was the minority in National Assembly. They now have super majority in both houses because people are switching over to the ruling party like their lives depend on it. And some of them probably do. Their political lives depend on it, right? He has consolidated power in a very severe form. But people do not believe that that will do anything for him past a second term because there is no northern Nigerian who is going to allow a southerner extend his term in office. The country will implode. It is tribal. Our politics is primarily tribal, and because
no,
you do not
but
have a middle class,
no, Adesua.
you can what I'm about to land because you don't have a middle class, because you have such a gap between the rich and the poor. It is easy for politicians to buy votes. In Nigeria, we have simple vote buying, and you take pictures of it, and people mock poor Nigerians. They say they bought your vote with a meal and a coke. They bought your vote with it used to be a bag of rice, now it's a packet of Indomie. But people are so
No,
poor, they're going to take the yes. We
Eh?
saw it. We saw the
Inflation.
picture. But the thing
has
is, there is no educated middle class to even try and fight back. There is no educated middle class or middle class with enough economic power to even challenge the government. The government do not believe there's any Nigerian who can talk to them because a politician said to me that I talk too much because I went to school abroad. That all of us will feel. And then when it comes to election, there's maybe one of me because the elite is a minority. How much do you want to talk? He goes to his constituents, he gives them rice, he gives them 2 cows over Christmas, and he's going to get reelected. And I can be talking about healthcare centers and paved roads, and I can go and he said, I should go back and I go back abroad and with that conversation because he doesn't care. And so the middle class is necessary. If Nigeria had a stronger middle class, an engaged middle class, or even an elite that cared about engaging in the system, I think we'll be in a better position. But our politics is so tribal. I cannot run in Lagos. I cannot run for office. You guys might say, oh, you're brilliant, you should do this, you should do that. I cannot be a local government chairman in Lagos because my father is from Edo State. That's it. And
Interesting.
that is
Charles,
Lagos.
come in.
Yeah, in fact, the other thing about the the possibility to organize around tribe, mobilize, is it also has democratic element. So, for example, there are parts of Africa, one of them be Ghana, and in fact even Kenya, where the possibility of a democratic vote in some areas exists because the tribe there is so mobilized against the state. There is simply no way it can steal. So if you are a candidate from say maybe the coastal part of Uganda, of Kenya, and you are an incumbent, you may find that you come to parts of central or western Kenya where, on account of your ethnicity, it is so organized that you don't have the possibility to steal the vote there. And there is a free vote there because the tribal wall is impenetrable.
Yeah.
So, it works both ways. In some areas it results into failure, like you said, but in some, actually, it's probably the only thing that guarantees democracy. So that what then becomes a democratic exchange and the social contract is because you have this wall. The only way you then get through at all is to pay for it.
Okay.
You pay for it through a road, you pay for it through a hospital. So, in some countries, it has that beneficial effect.
And Bob, how are things in, just to wind up this part of the discussion? How are things in Kampala? Are people just going about their business? The inauguration happens.
Well, people have gone
A
back.
new cabinet is sworn in.
People have gone back to their lives. The swearing in takes longer than us. So there's about, I think, 3 or 4 months before that happens, because of electoral petitions and things like that. So we still also have local government elections which are going to happen next week. So we're still in election season for another 2 weeks. So really, and then you've got to give now one of the most colorless candidates who was on the presidential ballot, and the one who you would least expect to do that, has gone to court to petition against the president's victory. Now, everyone was laughing, but I think I know what the game plan is. They probably want an opportunity to bring all the evidence about what happened in this election. And once that is part of the court record, it's very difficult for you to claim that the process was free and fair and that you're a legitimately elected leader. So I think that's what these guys are trying to achieve. But what I can say, and just from, again, this is anecdotal and talking to people, there is a sense of disappointment about the whole exercise and the process. And there was even no euphoria from the victors. You don't see it on social media, you didn't see it on the streets. So people are arguing that even they are not convinced about the nature of their victory, certainly not the magnitude or even the process. So there is, and then of course now we have Bobi Wine on the run. Nobody knows where he is. And the first son made some really, really nasty remarks about killing him, and he's pulled them down. But people have kept the receipts and they're distributing them. So that's creating an atmosphere. And Charles, I don't know if you've been able to see this, but Dr. Besigye has been rushed to hospital. Yeah. So those things can create an atmosphere. So there is quite a bit of tension. Certainly people are not convinced about this whole thing. There's still the uncertainty. I think that's the word I was looking for. You don't get the sense that this is done. So you get the sense that we're heading for very tough times.
we return to it next week. So to go to that other huge tribalist in the world, Donald Trump. Wow, I don't know where to start. Every day is a new thing. A 200% tariff on champagne, for example, and leaking WhatsApp messages of world leaders to him. But obviously, the place I want to look at is
Were there any from Africans?
these.
No, thank God.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't even count.
The- then there is this.
So,
His,
so
no, I was going to say, and you forgot to mention his board of peace. Hmm?
he's board of peace. Oh my God! I
Since
don't
Nobel,
think a single African one there as well.
since Nobel won't give him anything. Okay,
No, I mean,
sorry, but
what a year! And January is still in motion, huh? So
Yeah.
there's a set of visa bonds. Suddenly, the US has imposed massive visa bonds on a list of countries, 63% of which are African countries. I just see what's happening here.
Okay, let me talk about my president, DJT, as he now signs his letters
no way.
to other world powers. He signed a letter to the Norwegian Prime Minister Jonas Store. He signed it from President DJT, where he says that now that they haven't given him the Nobel Peace Prize, he's not obliged to think primarily about peace anymore, and that he wants Greenland. Now, remarkably, when I first read that letter, I kept being confused because I was like, Greenland is Denmark and not Norway. And then I realized Donald Trump probably doesn't know the
He
difference.
confused them.
He probably doesn't know the difference. Um, so what we have now is that there is a visa bond, originally a visa bond that was about $15,000, I think, on non-tourist visas going to America. So that's including student visas. Then there was a cancellation of thousands of visas. But then there's now also a visa ban. Now, Donald Trump said that it was countries that their nationals in America were relying on um, government support, food stamps, and stuff, and so he doesn't want more of these people relying on American assistance when they come to the country. The problem here is that this actually rises from what is going on in Minnesota, and if we've seen the ICE raids in Minnesota, with the governor there, Tim Walz, who was Kamala's vice presidential running mate. This stems from the anti-Somalia right-wing conspiracy theories, and that were based on some fact, and that there was some criminal activity from the COVID loans, and Minnesota has a huge Somali immigrant population there, and so, because of those incidents of some Somali nationals being engaged in fraud in Minneapolis, they then took that and it spun it into this huge conspiracy theory, which then led Trump to just, it's like it's the cycle of crazies that you don't know where it's going to end. You can see where it starts from, but nobody ever knows
Mm,
where it's going to end. And
mm.
when it comes to Donald Trump, and so now we have the functional visa ban. We have the visa bonds. For me personally, as someone, Trump is expected to speak at Davos today. We've seen Mark Carney's speech yesterday. We saw Macron. We saw the vice president of China there. I think Trump is America's number one biggest op, right? But the chaos that he's currently sowing in the world order, for me, it's no longer about the visa bans and the visa bonds. I personally, it's something that affected me personally because of someone I was mentoring, who's a waiter in a club that I go to, and he was able to get into an MBA program all the way in America, and now that's not a thing
Gone.
anymore because it's just gone. So you see, like, this affects people's lives and people's families and all over the world, and we all have to bear the cost and the weight of America's elections. There's a European minister that said that Europe's security can't be decided by a pizza guy in somewhere in Utah or Minneapolis or something. Like Europe has realized that with the rise of Trump. Um, but the world has realized that with the rise of Trump. And I think we've been talking about this multipolar world order, the new world order, but I really think that listening to Mark Carney yesterday is just
Wasn't
let
he
everything.
excellent? Huh?
He was. He was.
Oh,
He
fantastic!
was
Oh,
impressive.
He was excellent.
And he quoted my favorite.
fantastical!
He quoted from my favorite European ever, Václav Havel.
Who's
I
that?
was like, yes, this is intellectual stuff. And it was amazing how he was moving from one language to another and the self-confidence that he has. He spoke in French, then he switched to English and carried the audience with him. He's suddenly risen as the new world leader, actually. You
Yes.
could
I think
see
he was
in his
excellent.
stature. Yeah. And I think for me, that's where I'm looking to for as the hope for the future, that there's someone like Mark Carney who really is rallying the world. Him, the prime minister of Finland, even Macron has woken up somehow. The Danish have been impressive. Say what you may about
Very.
they don't
I think
megaphone.
new leadership arises from the ashes. So you
Yes,
have young Zoran, you have
yes.
Mark Carney. We're starting to see that, and that's hopeful. Charles, visa bonds, big story, small story. Also, China's foreign minister
I
makes his traditional four-nation stop on our continent, and Somalia is part of those first countries. Either of you, please.
Yes, because
Charles, can I
China,
make a
China
Charles?
has
I wanted to make a quick cheeky one about the visa bonds, and just
yeah.
sort of mess up at the Suez Day. Me, I am happy. Why? Because all these African big people who are
Middle class
yes,
people.
who take who take money from the government, go and send their children, I don't know, to the US to go and give birth, and then they get US citizenship. All that's now ended. So now, finally, some these Africans now realize you can't just up and run away to the States. Now that's not an option. So there's some good in that. Because some of these really negative people are just taking advantage of us and heading out to the States. Now we have options. So let them now go and give birth in China. And we see.
Bob, I think your
China.
problem is the upper class, not the middle class. It's not the
Yeah,
The
middle
No, no,
class.
no.
elite, not the middle class.
The
I agree
political
with
class.
Ade.
The political class.
Okay, okay.
but
Sorry, yeah,
but
Charles.
but but if you think of it, Pharaoh, and you touched on it that Trump is not acting in a vacuum, because one of the things is because I think they do read correctly the meaning of the election of people like Zora Mamadani. So they actually see that there is this force which is not necessarily purely white, and you begin to see. So that's one. The second thing, which it's not covered a lot in the mainstream media, is just the exodus, the number of Americans who are leaving, the U.S. And some of the numbers report something in the number of 2 million. So if you're having those, and a lot of them are white Americans, so you then so you have those forces create, um, the kind of world Trump and the right wing want. It actually diminishes further. So you begin to see that the visa bans become a tool for slowing the replacement, as they call it. So so that is one. But also you are if you then look at the 66 agencies that Trump says is withdrawing from, the majority of them work or do a lot of their primary work in Africa. So it's really a broader attack. It's just it's a broader attack on not just Africa, but I think that to him Africa is emblematic of brown people, or the 9-1 people whom they need to control. And when he asked the blonde and blue-eyed Norwegians to migrate, and he didn't, he has decided that he will invade and bring them into the fold the way Putin wanted to. Decided to invade and bring blonde and blue-eyed Ukrainians into Russia. So I mean, it's so screwed up.
And so clear when you put it that way. The only people from Africa who are welcome in America now are so-called victims of genocide, white ones from South Africa.
Yeah, yeah, precisely. But this is good. Not, I won't say it's good for the reasons Bob has said, although yeah, I think that is probably one element of it. But the collapse of empires need the stupidity or narrow-mindedness. It's in fact often our biggest ally. The only way Rome ended was by the greed and the gluttony of its leaders. So, in many ways, for us to have a multiple world, we need Trump to even do worse than he's doing.
Yeah, to self-destruct.
That's well, he seems to be doing that at an unbelievable pace in 2026. I'm going to move us on to a little bit of, I hope, some good and uplifting news. I was looking at images of the Freedom Statue in Dakar, and the stairs were filled with celebrating people from the AFCON victory. Charles, you said that it was a tournament that had caught your eye for many reasons.
Yes, and in fact, Musepe said it was the most commercially successful football tournament ever in Africa. There was a lot of this tournament which didn't have what some people on the left in Africa call Muntu elements. There were a lot of these elements of this organization that were not there. It was
our usual.
But there were very, very dramatic thing, because you see, for a very, very long time, Morocco was seen as this country that was drifting. In fact, at one point, it was that even like South Africa, there was talk of it joining the European Union. But the Africa pivot that it has made with this, the ministers were saying things like Africa beats in the heart of Morocco, and Morocco beats in the heart of Africa, and all those kind
That's
of
new.
Yeah,
That's new.
And
really,
that's why
you look at
I like the look on her face, man.
Yeah.
So,
Have you been to Morocco as a black person? I have.
there was this pivot, and probably, I mean, the economic reasons for it is probably clear. But Pharaoh, it was a great party. The people, because Morocco has these speed trains that organize, connect cities. So you could be staying in Rabat, and you'd go for a match in Marrakesh or Tangiers on the day, and come back in the evening. So those trains returned into parties, celebration of Africanness. The souks in Marrakesh and Rabat, they changed. There were African jerseys of all sorts. There was a real celebration of Africa, which you wouldn't think so, seeing what happened in the final. But I think that there were really some beautiful moments. Then you had this wonderful guy who kept doing the Patrice Lumumba statute.
Yeah.
Yes, he was fabulous.
He would stand for 90 minutes, and he became one of the stars of the the tournament. So it was really, it was a very beautiful one, like you say. It was a very
That's
happy
very
moment given kind of the things Africa had gone through in 2025.
That's
yeah.
excellent. So I'll do my parting shot
Hey, I have
because it's
something to
linked,
say
if I
about.
may, and then we go.
I have something to say about AFCON. Okay, I'll use my parting point.
AFCON, you go. Okay, okay. So
No.
I'll do mine.
Mhm.
You know, Patrice Motsepe is the head of CAF.
That's
Anyway, many people want him to be president of the ANC after Ramaphosa, and he keeps going around saying, I'm not interested, I'm not interested. So at the weekend, one of the titles here, the Sunday World, showed that people are beginning to print t shirts. EM 2027 for the ANC. Patrice, in Ipsos polling at the end of 2025, came up as the most popular possible leader of the ANC. You know, he's Cyril Ramaphosa's brother in law. He's been carefully cultivating his political persona using sport as the vehicle to do that. So just watch the space. That's my parting shot. Over
That's
to Bob.
very
and
interesting.
actually for me, CAF is a vindication, and the Morocco AFCON is a vindication of Patrice Motsepe's leadership and abilities. That is single-handedly taken the tournament to where it is today and taken it out of those francophone mafia who were just trading players and match
Well,
fixing and just not serious at all. Hired to survive the arrest. Actually, he was going to be arrested. The guy whom so, and I think what Patrice Motsepe has done is he's vindicated Anglophone Africa in quotes by delivering a much better performance. But I wanted to say that for me, all of you enjoyed CAF. My man of the year from AFCON is Pape Thiaw, the manager of Senegal. That guy is my man. I have always wanted a manager to order his players to walk off the field in the face of refereeing injustice. I was really, really happy. Now everybody is praising Sadio Mane and saying Sadio Mane. No, Sadio Mane was
Yeah, Sadio Mane is my man of the
no,
tournament.
Sadio Mane was just tactical. This guy rattled the Moroccans by taking. They didn't expect the team to walk off. So by the time they come back to take the penalty, the team is already shaking. That was psychological warfare at its best.
Ade,
Gosh, I really want to keep my parting shot light, but I can't. I can't. I will hit you with a light one. I'll hit you with the heavy. Then I'll give you a little bit of my I have a personal life update at the end.
Eh?
But the thing is, I saw Algerians celebrating with Nigeria, supporting Nigeria against Morocco because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And it was a very nice African moment that I think AFCON made me happy. But my parting shot is about something that I think we're not paying attention to with everything that's going on in the world, and we must. I have now seen two videos. One is of a young Nigerian man recruited, told he was going to Russia for a training program, and now being forced to fight on the front lines, calling out for help. And now African leaders have crossed their eyes to the other side. And I know it's a bit of this is also going on in South Africa with
yes.
young South African men being recruited to fight on the front lines in Russia. Ukraine fights for Russia. But I've also seen a video of a man, an African man, I've not been able to confirm where he's from, being strapped with an explosive device, being used as a some sort of like he should go
IED.
and blow up, yeah, he's being used as an IED, an African man. I've then also seen a video translated where they're talking about Africans and like black people in not surprising, very viciously racist ways.
Mm.
But these are people who are our governments are not protecting, because I have seen now South Africans, I've seen Nigerians. These are young men and women who are so desperate to go to Europe, who are so desperate to go to the other side, that they are now being used as bodies in a war that is not even ours. So before we talk about Trump throwing us into a world war or Africans dying in another man's wars, we're currently being faced with that. And I think my parting shot is that at what point are leaders going to be held accountable for the plight of the youth of this continent, particularly if we're thinking about the Russia-Ukraine war and Russia utilizing black bodies as disposable things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a full episode next time. And what's the life update?
I'm at my boyfriend's house.
Ah!
What?
And I didn't like that. Sorry.
Charles, leave us
I
alone.
said I'm in my boyfriend's house. That's the owner of the library and the Starlink.
So, Adesua, tell him that Adesua, Charles, wait,
Yeah.
we're negotiating now. The Furious call it Lobola. You see, for us, you tell him, 40 Frisians were not talking. Have you heard me properly? 40
Frisians?
Yes.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
He must bring 40 Frisian cows. And 20, and 25 Ankole cattle. Before we talk, he can add some 10 Fulani ones, but we don't want to be. Tell him, my friend, we're not joking. Charles,
I love it.
I'm even applying.
You know, Cyril's got Ankole farms, eh?
Yeah, I'm applying for a Nigerian visa now because I know it will take a long time. So let me start early.
Congratulations.
Oh,
lovely.
man.
Congratulations, Ade.
Oh, yeah.
That's fabulous.
Wow. You greet him for us. Tell him we're very happy people. Very, very happy.
Very happy.
Very happy.
That's lovely.
You know, I was wondering why you were looking radiant and in a different. I thought it was the internet. There's a different power. Charles, over to
Anyway,
you.
let us move this on.
Charles, over
let's
to you.
move this on. My parting shot has to go to AFCON, and it's Malawi, like many football teams tend to do. They hired a witch doctor to help them win. So he was paid 33,500 euros to help the teams. So they were knocked out in the quarterfinals. So he has been arrested.
Oh, that's fabulous.
He has been arrested and he's jailed for providing defective services or something like that.
No, the offense is called obtaining money by false pretenses.
Oh my goodness.
See you guys.
Lovely first episode. Remember to like, share, and
Subscribe.
Subscribe and follow.
subscribe. Follow.
Happy 2020.
Thank you very much.
All
Bye,
right.
guys. Love you.
Wonderful,
both.
guys.
Good to see
Bye,
you.
guys. Lots of love.